Oh, hello, and welcome to Aldente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. These stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have In My Mind. So,
You have what in your mind?
yeah. The story is in my mind.
It is. It's in my mind as well.
This story is in my mind, as
Yeah.
it's the title. So In My Mind is by Monotoned on creepypasta.wiki. And I actually found the sequel to this story first, as it was on the front page of the wiki last week as part of like the new stories section. Like it only came out like last month, like March. When I was browsing through just to like see what new creepypastas there were and such. But as I was grabbing that one for the show, I saw that it was connected to this one. And as this story in my mind was posted a day before the Morsha, which is the name of the other story, I figured we should probably do that, the in my mind first, and then we'll cover the Morsha after. So like next, look forward next week when we do the Morsha. But with that little bit of background out of the way, yeah, you can check it out at creepypasta.wiki. And let's do our initial recommendations. So I'm gonna partially recommend it, like on the lower end for now.
Okay. I am not recommending this.
Okay.
I'll go partial on the low as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's find out why. Starting with the rundown. The rundown, starring The Rock.
I thought it was The Rock. Was he in the
Yeah.
rundown?
Yeah, the rundown is stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson with I think it's the one with a 2x. Oh no, it's not. You know, the one where he's carrying a 2x4 everywhere is a different movie entirely. But the rundown is where he's like hunting down this like rich kid's like son who's in like Central America, and like he has to go up against Christopher Walken, who's like an evil like American or like American like miner, like who's like mining the riches of the earth in Central America or South America.
I was gonna say he's actually pretty old. He's not a miner anymore.
I hate you.
Good.
Good.
But anyway, yeah. So okay, the rundown for our for this story. So Nair, we never get a name, recounts this story to us. They start by having to get up out of bed for work, but as they are getting dressed, one of their socks that fell down off the floor gets snatched up by a gray hand from beneath his drawers. Freaked out a little, he grabs a ball and rolls it under to see who or what is under the drawers, and something pushes the ball back out and it goes out into the hallway. Out there, Nair hears his mother's voice, but his mom's been dead for 6 years. So he goes and grabs his revolver and breaks into his mom's locked door, or the locked door to his mom's room, where he heard the voice. And what he finds in there is nothing save the rope and the chair where his mom hanged herself, and the window is open. He goes over to the window and shouts out at it to whoever's doing this. But then as he turns, he sees that his friend Gerald is hanging from the rope, and begins to puke and weep for his friend. And then things start to get weird as the day suddenly becomes night, and as he brings down his friend's body from the noose and starts mourning over him. Nair sees a face peek out by the door, and he follows this person quickly down the stairs to the ground level, where he sees that the basement door is open, and it's quite dark down there. We then get a recollection of how his dad was a drunk, an abusive asshole who hurt his mom and hated him for being born, and that Nair would hide in the basement watching Courage the Cowardly Dog to stay safe from his dad. However, one day, Dad found out where he'd been hiding and came down into the basement to attack him. But his mom also came down and came out from behind the dad and killed him with the toaster. In her manic state afterwards, she ran away upstairs and presumably hanged herself then.
So it accidentally killed him with the toaster.
Yes, accidentally. Yeah. She bashed him over the head with the toaster, but it did more damage than she was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nair has blamed himself for the entire thing ever since. Back to the present, Nair has gotten a flashlight and is going down to the basement, where he finds his old blanket in the corner and this large hand mark on the wall. As he turns around, he sees himself coming out of the darkness like another him, like another Nair, which he then goes and hugs and tells that it wasn't his fault. This other Nair then nods and walks back into the darkness and is replaced by this freaky old woman who walks out of the darkness, and Nair begins getting strange flashes of memories. And then there's a bang as Gerald, alive, shoots, I think, the old woman with the revolver, and helps Nair out of the basement and into the light of day. 6 years now then pass, so another 6 years pass, and Nair has sold the house and is keeping tabs on the family who lived there after. They apparently all mass suicided, except for the daughter, who jabbed her own eyes out and has been admitted to an insane asylum. Nair visits her to get information on what happened, but she doesn't seem to respond at all to anything. And so just as he's about to leave, she finally says something to him. The Morsha comes for you. She knows your guilt and mine. Nair dismisses this and throws out all his notes and photos of presumably from the events and his work, his research, or his investigation into what's been going on, trying to restart his life. Finn, for now. We'll see what happens in the Morsha. So that was the rundown, and I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grime Inquisitions at this point. I've got a couple, just a smidge, few.
I feel like you're lying. There's probably a lot.
There's a fair amount.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm going to start with this one here. As I continued to rummage through my drawers, perhaps looking for something to wear that wasn't nearly as, stereotypical, I took my socks from the top drawer and then dropped my left sock onto the wooden floor. So I think that first, as at the start of this, shouldn't really be there because it makes the sentence feel like it should keep going after the next sentence, which is so it ends that first sentence ends with perhaps looking for something to wear that wasn't nearly as stereotypical, period. And then it goes on to I took my socks from the top drawer and then dropped my left sock onto the wooden floor. It feels like those two should actually be that period should be a comma, because to continue this train of thought that's going on in the first sentence. But that would make it a little bit more run on than it should, I think. So I think removing the as is the simplest way to fix that issue.
My problem with that whole bit is how specific it is. Saying that it was specifically your left sock that you dropped, and you remember that because you don't like your left foot and stuff like that. It's so specific and weird.
Well, it's setting up what happens to that left sock next. So
yeah, but it being matter.
I know. Well, all right. Oh yeah, and then like later, doesn't he like he's like you're probably like it's like why I hate left. Well, I hate my left foot because it's like like no good. I mean, it helps me walk and climb, blah blah. But like I digress. Like what the fuck was that? Is kind of like it's a weird train of thought.
Well, and in regards to it being the left sock, we do have a friend that wears different colored socks on each foot, so he knows which one is the left sock.
I forgot
via
about
the
that
coloring.
actually. Yeah.
So it could very well be a sock with an L on it for all we care. For
Yeah.
it to be the left sock.
He just has it
being left
sharpie.
doesn't matter. Is my whole point.
No, but like this character is also kind of like weird and eccentric to begin with, so
I guess.
maybe
As a lefty myself, I just don't like seeing him targeting left. That's
he was very anti-left foot. So,
yeah, that's
like,
my real problem.
I
with this.
knew
This
I
whole
knew
story
you were
is very anti-lefty,
I-
anti-southpaw.
I fucking knew you were gonna bring that up. I was like reading the story. It's like I was like I should maybe make a note of this. No, it's gonna be brought up.
It will happen.
Yeah,
The word
You
left
damn-
is in here. The gamer will bring up something.
yeah. You southpaws. You're oversensitive about your southpawness.
That's what happens when you live in a right-handed world.
Yep.
We're discriminated against.
Yeah.
I'm glad you agree, at least.
Also, I just have to say, like, just as a quick aside, that second sentence rhymes really well. Like, I took my socks from the top drawer, and then dropped my left sock onto the wooden floor.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Sorry, I just like as I read when I first read, I was like, that rhymes really well. But I'll move on to the next thing then. My mother hung herself, but not too many people knew this. It's actually hanged herself. Hung means something completely different. And like, this is no joke here. Hanged is the proper past tense for the action of hanging when it refers to someone killing someone else or themselves by hanging.
Oh, really?
Welcome to my tense talk. Yeah, like it's something that like I've made the mistake as well, like in the past. Like I've written hung and then I've been corrected that it's actually hanged. And I actually Googled it to make sure, like, it's like, I wanted to say, am I just being too pedantic? Let's find out. And like, no, according to like dictionaries and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, to hang, it's hanged is the past tense for the action of hanging oneself, whereas hung is just being is for the action, the past tense for something being suspended.
Even though being
hung up on something.
Yeah.
Suspended.
Yeah, no, but it is hanged is specifically for death.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. But I'll move on to the next thing here. I don't understand. This wasn't like this. I walked over to the corner and I puked several times. Okay. From a writing angle, not necessarily from a narrative story bit, you just needed to say you puked in the corner. You didn't need to include several times. It just seems unnecessary to me. I don't. This might. I kind of get annoyed at this point from reading so many stories that are just like I puked constantly. Like now that I'm now just like oversensitive about like somebody puking multiple times in a story.
Why can't he puke multiple times? If that's how it is, like, that's how it is.
It gets so overdone. Like he just keeps vomiting just everywhere. It's just vomit everywhere.
Say what would be better if he said he puked until he started dry retching?
I'd be fine with that, honestly, because like I think it might just be the several times because it's like blah, blah, just like the different parts of the corner. Just like no, like I don't need that. Like to me, it makes me weary when it's when several times is used because of how many times we've read it in other stories, and the person is just like creating like a like ankle deep or like knee high deep like pool of vomit.
Oh, you took it like super cartoony. He only has so much food in his stomach.
I know we've done stories before, Gamer, where somebody does like that. It's like it just seems like there's puke like rising into the room.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, so like again, I'm. It might be fine. This might just be a nitpick, but the use of like I puked several times has made me weary from like past experiences. So I could have done without several times, but I'll move on. So I'll this next one I have. As I slowly held my head up and felt incredibly sick, I saw it was nighttime now outside. It was just daytime. None of this makes any sense. I can't take this anymore. I turned around and started at Gerald's body. Or stared at Gerald's body. Not started at Gerald's body. I was like, ah! So my tense talk continues a little bit. So this might be this might be a nitpick, but I feel this story does this a couple of times. This is not like an isolated incident for this section, but there's a lot of in the moment thoughts of the character throughout this story, and without a lot of clarification. Like while I was reading it, I was able to differentiate for the most part, like when something was clearly a in the moment thought from the character in the story in that recollection, and not a like past present tense issue. But personally, I would have liked something like I thought in that moment at the end, or something like that, like to kind of clarify that like these present tense sentences are actually like in the moment thoughts. But that might just be like a nitpick or like a tedious tense talk.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Generally speaking, it's just safer to just keep it all the same, or
yeah,
specifically differentiate.
Okay, so you agree with me then? Like it should maybe have some kind of clarity. Yeah.
If it's meant to be like in the now and not in the then yes.
Yeah, like, and I was actively looking for past and present tense because like that's how my brain works. But like as soon as I realized that like it was using past tense for most of it, and then suddenly we went to present. I was like, what is this? I was like, wait, no, in the context of this is probably him having an in moment thought. Okay, I'll let it pass maybe, but I could have used like some kind of like even like brackets or like because I think the Baraska story would use brackets for like in the moment thoughts, or I dare say italics.
No, you don't say.
No, never.
If it's bold italics, maybe.
Like
double down on it.
Bold would work. Or again, just bold. Have like or just have it like the end of the train of thought, just like I thought in that moment, like bam, done.
Yeah, straight up say it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll move on from my tense talk. I think I'm done tense talking.
We'll see.
I watched as his body dropped in front of me, and the blood began to rush from his head. And then my mother began to check his neck for a pulse. So I think it should be gush rather than rush, in my opinion. Like, and the blood began to gush from his head. Like,
they're both right.
They're both right, but gush sounds better for it when I read that. Like for like blood gushing out of his head rather than rushing out of his head. Like to me, blood rushing to your head is like when you're upside down and blood is rushing through your body to your head. Whereas like gush sounds more like it's more descriptive of like the blood like fleeting, leaving out of a wound.
Yeah, I guess when you say it like that.
Yeah. Again, I'm just lounging on the nitpick nook sofa. Apparently,
I mean, you do own that.
I do.
It is yours. That is.
It is my house.
Yes.
There is one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
In that paragraph, he says, "I watched as 3 times."
I watched as his body dropped in front of me, and the blood began to rush from his head. Wait.
Then later, in the same paragraph, I watched as she started to scream and cry.
Yeah.
And then again, And then I watched as she ran back up the stairs in a panic. So
A lot of
there's too
watching.
much repetition of the same words.
Yeah,
So he should have mixed it up a bit more.
Okay.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Because the first I watched as is good enough, and you can just continue describing what's happening. You don't have to keep saying, "I watched this, I watched this, I watched this."
Because
Like
it's
we
in
know
the
what you're
same.
watching.
Yeah.
It's in the same moment, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of writers tend to like do that kind of out of just because they think it'll drive a thing home, but like yeah, it's not necessarily necessary.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so move on to my next one then.
Yep.
I couldn't determine why the handprint was there or why it was so big. I feel like it should either have like a slash between how and why, or how or why the hand was there or why it was so big.
Or how and why. But either way, it needs something. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the next one here. I should be more alarmed about this, but I could, but I've come to expect crazy things like this. So I tinkered this sentence a little bit. So it's I should have been more alarmed about this, comma, but I'd come to expect crazy things like this. Maybe even get rid of that last like this because that's repeating this to in the sentence. Like, but I'd come to expect crazy things.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not sure if this is I don't think this was a tense issue. I think it's just like the way I read that story, the sentence, it kind of came off kind of weird to me, so I tried to fix it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then my last one, I watched Gerald bashed through the front door while helping me stand, and then a bright sun ray engulfed us both. I think it should be bash, not bashed. Like, I watched Gerald bash through the front door, not bashed through the front door. He hadn't already bashed through the door.
But then you're making it present tense.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense as it is, like without
That's why
that.
you change it to I watched as Gerald bashed through.
As Gerald bashed. Yeah, that would add the as. So
Oh,
take one of those
but
as's from the previous sentence and put it here.
but
Yeah.
but then we have another I watched as scenario. Like, how many times does he say it again in this paragraph?
Well, and
Like,
also actually by having you could have bash there because we already know it's past tense because I watched Gerald bash through the front door.
Oh, I see. Because yeah, you set up the tense early
Yeah.
on. Yeah, that's fair.
But that is it for my grammar inquisition. So, Mikey, these stands for evil.
So we've sort of covered I watched as enough. So
Yeah.
we don't need to beat that dead horse.
Hang
Is
on.
there more though?
There we go. There we go.
In that paragraph that you were suggesting adding as, I looked and it's like I watched as is in that paragraph a few times, at least twice. But then it is a long paragraph. Like just doing a quick search, I watched as.
There we go.
Horse isn't dead yet. It
Yeah.
made noise.
Yeah.
So I watched as is used 8 times in the story. But
Jesus.
most notably, it's like 3 times per paragraph when it shows up.
Yeah, it's concentrated in one. There's like a cluster of them.
Mm-hmm. They show up in burst
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. And then I have a conjunction junction.
All right. Insert conjunction junction bit here.
But in my mind, it's different. So although tangents such as these make no sense, they aren't foreign or lies. So let me recall the truth of my mind and my sightings. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and the alarm was blaring, as it does every day. I slowly sat up and groaned as I did so, then glanced around my room, and then fell back into my pillow again. It's never been helpful to me for anything other than biking, running, walking, and a few other critical activities, but that's beside the point. It played some music, and it began to light up. It was my mother's voice. It was just daytime. Finn.
Whoa, what?
Was it mother's voice, or was it the daytime? Or are they?
It was the daytime, and also, oh, champion of the sun. Sorry, Captain Day, champion of the sun. But yeah, that.
At the start of that, I was like, there was no context. And it's talking about like he got out of bed, lay back in bed, and then all of a sudden, like it's talking about like how he didn't have much care for it. It was only good for like going on runs and stuff like that. But the last context we had was the bed. It's like the bed is what's good for going on runs.
His bed was a mimic.
Voice becomes what is good for going on runs and stuff like that. So maybe that's like encouragement voice kind of deal, you know?
Oh god. So wait, what if his bed is a mimic that can move around and also imitate voices?
Yeah.
It all comes down to Mimic World.
That is like a cheat to just answer why something works, you know?
Yeah.
It's like saying it was aliens or it was all a dream.
Yeah, sleep paralysis or aliens or mimics.
Sleep paralysis or aliens, yeah.
We've got a third option now, mimics.
Mm-hmm.
How do they work?
I was gonna say
damn it.
It sounds like magnets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it sounded so right. Like I didn't realize why.
You didn't know why?
I was just like, oh, this sounds cool.
Mimics.
Gamer, how long have you known me? Like that's how my brain works.
Too long.
Ow.
Well, yeah. And for those unaware, Mikey does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Yeah. And I suppose we move on to the grammar in yellow.
You do. Or I do. We do? I don't know. Either way, a couple. Surprisingly, I missed pretty much all the ones that you brought up. You by in you, I mean both of you. Somehow
you all
of those, yeah.
Yeah.
So mine are a little different. First one is in regards to things happening. He says like things happen for a reason, except for him. Then the next sentence is, so although tangents such as these make no sense, they aren't foreign or lies. So let me recall the truth of my mind and sightings. So my question to that is, how is that a tangent? All he's talked about so far is one thing, that everything happens for a reason except for in his mind. So where's the tangent? That's all he said so far. I
really don't like that first paragraph, to be honest.
Yeah, like this could be cleaned up by just jumping immediately to let me recall the truth of my mind and my sightings. Like remove all this tangent stuff, because it's not. We know tangents.
Yeah, we have a whole. There's a whole police squad that hunts us down daily.
Yeah. At least
we get swatted on a weekly basis by the tangent police.
Because we are often going off the beaten path.
Yeah,
but that doesn't happen here at all, and yet it's a tangent.
Somehow. Yeah, I think it's like he's trying to get at that, like his memories aren't like lies. Like he's not fabricating these memories; like they are truth. So that's why he's trying to recollect them. But like,
has nothing to do with tangents.
I know it makes it was really weirdly written the way it uses tangents and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't understand it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's that. Mm-hmm. And then next up, I would spend hours down there watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, and capital It was the best show, comma, capital In my opinion. So for some reason, those two I's were capitalized.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. They don't need to be.
Yeah, they capitalized it's a lot.
And it's okay
Yes.
at the start of a sentence, even though it shouldn't be at the start of the sentence, but
Well, they also capitalize it in the middle of a sentence. There's
that's what I'm
capital
saying.
it.
Also,
Yeah, because in my next one, spending every day in the basement was okay because I knew it was there. Sorry, I knew it was there. I was the safest until it capitalized wasn't.
Yeah. why isn't Courage the Cowardly Dogs capitalized?
Yeah, it should be.
Because it's a show. It's a title for a TV show. So
Yep. Or in quotes. What are you supposed to do for that? Are you supposed to
yeah,
quote it?
yeah. You usually you can do both, like, or you definitely have to do capitals because it is the title for something. But
Yeah.
also, I would definitely have used quotes because like it's you're naming a brand of something.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the weirdest was the capital I's everywhere.
Mm.
Very strange.
Yeah.
But that's honestly all I got for grammar.
Okay. Then I suppose I suppose we'll move on to actual thoughts. Everything happens for a reason, and everyone says that these exact words. But in my mind, it's different. Title drop.
Yeah, credits.
Yeah, credit. But I'll move on. I bent down to pick up my sock, and then as I reached for it, I watched a deformed gray hand quickly grasp onto the sock and drag it under the drawer. I took a few steps back, and my mind began to race. How is that even possible? House elves, man. They hunger for socks. At least this place isn't infested with house hippos. Now I can't get the idea of a house elf riding a house hippo out of my head. I need to draw that sometime.
There you go.
No lie. Like as soon as I brought a house elves, and then as soon as I brought house hippos, I had this envision of like a house elf riding a house hippo. It's like, and for those of you who don't know what a house hippo is, Google the house hippo Canadian ad on YouTube.
Is it not a widely known thing?
No, it's a Canadian broadcast thing. So a lot of people outside of Canada probably don't know what it is.
Oh, wow.
It also only happened during during a certain. It only aired for a certain period of time during the 90s. So
I see.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so only Canadian 90s kids will really like know this from their childhood, unless they've been shown it otherwise or they've stumbled upon it. So
Mm-hmm. Go out there and educate yourself, guys.
But I'll move on to the next thing I have here.
Mm-hmm.
Once I entered the hallway, I watched the ball roll until it stopped before my mother's door. Sweetie, are you playing with your ball again? Not gonna do any innuendo there at all. I heard a
Why would
voice. I know. I heard a voice come from the other side of the door that led to my mom's room. I recognized the voice instantly. It was my mother's voice. No one else could talk as smoothly or kindly as she could. My mother had been dead for 6 years, and I will not tolerate pranks pulled on me regarding her death. Wow. Okay, I was wondering why this paragraph was like hammering home the mother thing.
Yeah,
And
it took
then
a long time to get there.
and then pow, dead mom revelation. I was like, oh, oh, that's why. It was like, okay, that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting, because it was like my mother's door. I heard my mother's voice. It was definitely my mom's voice. I could recognize it instantly. It was my mom's voice. She'd been dead for 6 years. Oh shit!
I thought it was just gonna. At first, I thought it was just gonna be like, okay, she's not living there, you know?
Yeah.
But
No, she's just dead. And then when we get inside that room and find as soon as I saw there's nothing in the room except for the rope, and chair in the middle of the room. I was like, oh shit, that's how she killed herself. Like without even like getting elaboration, I knew immediately what had happened.
Yeah.
But before that, we got this. So I entered cautiously back into my room and crouched before my bed, slid out my black box, and rummaged through bloodied papers. I took the revolver out, loaded the bullets as quickly as possible into the chamber, cocked the gun, and walked back to my mother's room in the hallway. wait, why bloodied papers? Did Nair kill his mom? Like that was
Kind of seemed like it.
That's what
Yeah.
it sounded like. I was like, also, why bloody? Like that just seems like bad gun care. Like, why would you leave a gun in a box full of bloodied papers? Like, what the? Like, also, that's kind of like if you just why are they bloody?
It's important information that
Like,
we do not get an answer.
if it was bloody, like with a Y at the end, not like the IED, I could have like, oh yeah, maybe it's like the slang, like you bloody these bloody
Oh,
papers,
these like goddamn papers.
but it's
yeah.
bloodied papers, i.e., they are bloodied papers.
Yeah.
It's like what the fuck is like what the fuck? But then we get the next thing here. That night he barged into the basement with a bottle of poison after physically abusing my mother to get her to tell me where I was hiding. He saw me watching TV in the basement corner and approached me angrily. He then kicked the TV off its stand and then he tossed the bottle against the wall and it shattered. What was the fucking point of the poison? I guess he was like probably drunk at the time. So maybe the bottle of poison was actually not poison in like a literal sense, but it was like the bottle of like alcohol he was drinking.
Yeah, or he just had it as a threat, but he wasn't using it.
Maybe like I was just like I know this guy's like an asshole, but this sort of made it seem like he was just a dumbass. Like I'm gonna poison my son. Smash. Ugh. I was like, are you gonna force your son to like lick it off the floor like with the glass and shit? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, but now, like, actually, honestly, like, I just realized now that poison might have been like the bottle of poison might have been the character like describing alcohol because alcohol is like a poison technically, and it's like pick your poison, but like also literally alcohol is poison that we put in our bodies. So. Yeah, I'll move on. That's the whole premise to the night that she had removed her life from my own. They were ruined by this accursed boy, tied to their fate by the rope, and destroyed by the bottle. I have blamed myself daily for everything, but would rather live in my mind. Man, I feel like at this point in the story, I was like, man, I feel really sorry for narrator. I really hope he doesn't like get eaten or something like that by some creature in this by the end. Like, because and I liked actually that like later in the story, like he's like I blames himself and stuff like that. I'm like, oh man, I feel it's not your like because it's not your fault. You were just dealt a really shitty hand and your parents were shitty. Like you were not to blame. And the fact that like we get a scene later on when like he meets his other self somewhere in the basement and hugs him and says it's not his fault. Like I was like, yeah, man, that's exactly what I was just thinking. Like like you just need a hug and someone to tell you the truth that it wasn't your fault.
I'm sure when it happened, people kept telling him that.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's whether or not
everyone's like, yeah, you fucked up.
Yeah, it's like, man, this fucking kid.
As a kid, he's just standing there with the tears dripping down his face.
He's like, man, kid, you're cursed.
I didn't do anything. You existed. Oh no.
Jesus. Yeah, that'd be fucked up. That kind of sounds like a shitty YA novel, like Harry Potter style, or like what's the one? A series of unfortunate events where like the kids are always getting blamed for shit.
Or by like and they don't know how to do any grief counseling there.
Wait, is that why is that where all those YA novels take place? It's in Derpland?
I mean, that makes
like
sense to me.
It's all about leaving Derpland to go into a better place. Like all the parents there are shitty and assholey and dumb and always blaming the kids for no reason when bad things happen. Wow.
Yeah, because they can't come up with a better excuse as why it happens, so they just blame the kids.
All right, time to write my successful YA novel, Escape from Derpland. But before I do that, I'll move on to my next comment here.
Okay, yeah. We can wait if you want to do it now.
No, yeah. Okay. I'll get to it. I'll get to it eventually. He says, adding something to another thing to list of things he will get to.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like that meme of like the guy of like the boyfriend looking at the girl passing by, and his girlfriend's like right there. It's like, huh? It's like the girlfriend is like all my current projects, and then like the boyfriend is me, and the girl I'm whistling to is like a new project.
Yes.
Icy Dice, if you want to make a meme of that, I'd be down for that. I hope you're listening. I'll move on to the next one though. Her entire body twisted as she approached me. She locked her eyes with mine, and then the memories of my family began to flash before my eyes. And then, finally, I heard a gunshot. My vision was blurry, but I saw Gerald lowering the revolver as he came to hug me and lift me. And in my hand was a bottle of alcohol. I watched as it fell from my hand as he began to help me out of the basement. Man, so like, I guess the old woman was like psychically assaulting this guy and anyone else who lives in the house, I think, to get them to kill themselves or something. I was pretty sure up until a certain point of the story that like this was all just some weird dream that he'd experienced, like from like waking up to like going to his mom's house, like dealing with that the weird hand thing, and then like going into his mom's room, and then turning around and finding that his best friend was like hanging where the mom had been hanging, and then like suddenly it was day and night, and it's like, okay, this has got to be like some kind of a dream sequence. Like I'm placing my bet. It's a dream sequence throughout the story, and then we get this part where he's like, and then like the gunshot is like, okay, so he shot himself, because he had the revolver last. But then Gerald's alive and he has the gun and he shot something. I'm guessing the old woman. And then Nair has a bottle of alcohol. So he was like drinking. Like, it is, the title of this is saying like in my mind, and it references being in my mind, living in my mind, like throughout the story. So like maybe this whole thing is like, we can't trust what we've been reading because it's all hallucinations and like mindscape shit and like a flawed perspective.
Nair is off his ass drunk, and that's what the entire story is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just him coming up with his stuff in his head.
Except we then cut away to 6 years later, and somebody else's family has been suicided, and like the survivor has gone crazy.
That's just living in suburbia.
Ouch. No truth. But like, so it had me wonder, is like, is the weird woman who's like a like even a real thing, like an entity? Is the entity in the basement actually even a thing, or is it just him drunk? But then we get like 6 years later, and there's a new family, and like things are happening the same way it happened with his family. Like, man, I'm confused. Like, I'm a little confused, and I'm intrigued, but more confused. But intrigued, but very confused.
You're contrigued.
I'm contrigued, yes. I'm infused.
Yeah, I figured contrigued worked better because it doesn't have a second meaning.
Yeah. So, like, I liked the story for like how like weird, like surreal it was getting, but I'm just like, I'm contrigued by it.
Right? It's a term now.
Yeah.
Added to the ADR dictionary.
Exactly. But I'll move on. And speaking of like, yeah, so 6 years later, I continued to spy on that house after I had sold it. And it continues on for about
16 times.
yeah. And it continues on for like another paragraph or so to tie up this strange legacy of the guy's house and like who lived in it next and like whatnot. First off, dick move, using another family to conduct an experiment of sorts about your house.
I mean,
he's kind of
get out of there. Like he had to sell the house.
He had to sell the house, yeah, but like he's in he keeps going back every 6 years and checking up on it, or like who knows how long he's like how many times in those 6 years he was checking up on it, but he was going back and checking up on it to see if anything weird or something had happened to the family. So like it's kind of a dick move, like he's purposely knows that something might happen to them.
Well, he doesn't know for a fact yet because it's not really super confirmed.
It's still a dick move. Like I would have just moved on. Like it's like, all right, well, like I think it would have been less of a dick move if he like just like sold the house and that's somebody else's problem. Like,
Really?
I think it is honestly the lesser of two evils. Like,
But if he's there and he's seeing the weird shit happening, then he can be like, "Yo, I used to live here.
yeah, but
This
he
is what's
doesn't do
happening. Let me
that.
help you."
He doesn't do that at all. Like that would be
No.
the best case option. It's like if he was going back and checking to see if anything happened and like helping them out if he does know something happened, but he doesn't. He just like he waits for them to go to suicide themselves and for the one survivor to go crazy, and then he visits her in the asylum.
Yeah.
Like it,
He's a little late.
yeah, a little late to the game. on that.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think this story could use a lot more elaboration to flesh it out more in certain spots, especially around here. Like this 6 years, it's just gone within a paragraph or two. Like it really felt like I wanted more about like the investigation or the circumstances that he was like kind of investigating here. And by the end, it just kind of felt like we were rushing to get to the end of the story. Like so many creepypastas we've done in the past on the show, like some of the early ones, like our early episodes, it really felt like the story was just like ramping up. It's like, all right, gotta go right now. Like, we gotta finish the story. Like an entire 6 years went by, and then like his investigation with the one person that like survived the second encounter, the second instance of this house, like killing a family. We get that in like we get all of that in less than like a paragraph or two.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. Yes, 6 years have passed.
Yeah.
But if nothing happened in that 6 years, do you expect him to just talk about his
Well,
normal everyday life for 6 years?
Here's the thing. Make something fucking happen. It's a fucking creative writing story.
Don't
you
yell
can
at me.
add things. No, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at what you're saying. I'm also not yelling. I'm just loud.
You're not supposed to know that I wrote this.
Oh. But like, yeah, no, like that's my counter to your like, oh well, you know, like 6 years ago, but maybe nothing's happened. It's like, no, you wrote this. Somebody wrote this story. They can make something happen in that 6 years. You don't have to have it like be. That's the crux of what I'm saying here. Is like, I want more shit to happen so that it's a little bit more it's a little bit more like, maybe not pat is the best word, but like a little bit more like fleshed out. Add more meat to them bones. Damn it.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, I'll get off my soapbox. Hang on, there's that dead horse. Okay, and my last thing I have here for my actual thoughts is regarding the photo and the video at the end of the story. I actually thought the video was kind of cool. And it's added at the end of the story. So we don't like see it until we've like finished reading most of the story, which I thought was nice. And I was actually getting a little creeped out while reading the video, or while watching the video, because I was almost expecting something creepy to happen. Now that said, the first time I watched this, I didn't really hear the commentary that was going on in the story, and when I listened to it right before, or when I rewatched it before we started the show today, I heard the commentary in full, and I was like, okay, I could have done without that commentary, because it's just like, all right, I'm going down in the basement with my flashlight, and oh, there's my blanket. It's totally normal, and oh, there's a weird mark on the wall. That's totally not weird. All right, we're just going to turn around here and go into the darkness now. Like it was like really like if this had been, I love Slender vlogs and found footage shit. So like and one of the things that makes those things so creepy is that there is no like commentary from the camera person. They're just, you get that kind of weird, creepy, out of context vibe of somebody just walking through a dark, unknown space. And yeah, that commentary just kind of ruins it. Without that commentary, it might have been a little bit spookier. And yeah, nothing happens in the video. Like, we don't see anything in the video, but there is that tension like that leads up to like, are we going to see something? And like, I live for that when I watch these kind of creepy vlogs and creepy video, like found footage stuff. So, like that's kind of the that's part of the thrill of it. Even if nothing happens, it's that in that moment of like, is something going to happen? That's what I live for when I'm watching those.
Yeah.
That said, I'm kind of like, so it's odd because based on the story that we just read, he threw out all his notes and such in the trash. So did he change his mind? Did he post it online prior to planning to throw it all out? Or did someone dumpster dive and find all of this and post it online, kind of like a found footage scenario? Where like somebody found the tapes and found all the notes and like decided to post it online for somebody to see, for people to see.
I don't think those notes are like what we read. The notes are basically like any research he's done in between it happening and now. And
So
like
that's why we don't have a full
spying stuff that he's done. All the notes on that.
Yeah. So and he's recalling it now, like after so that's all like happened in the past, like before you started writing down the story, and that's why we don't have this full fleshed out like 6 years later thing. It's because he threw all that shit out trying to restart his life.
Yeah.
Okay, that may explain that now. But yeah, like the videos and the photos, like I'm glad they were at the end because like they're not necessarily needed, but they do like help the story a little bit. Like they give a little bit more like they cement the story a little bit more in reality because we actually have a photo of that handprint on the wall, and then we have a little video of a person walking into a dark basement. But yeah, it's just some of the circumstances of like why we have that when he threw all his notes out and stuff. It did kind of throw me off because he also said like notes and photos. So I guess maybe he may have taken more photos.
We don't know specifically what he's referring to when he's saying notes and photos.
Okay, but you can surmise that it's. Sorry.
What I surmised was that those notes and photos were from his spying shenanigans over the house, not
the
events that happened to his past, because he didn't take pictures of that stuff happening in the past. He was a kid.
Yeah, that's true. And he did say that he did take a photo of the hand, but that's all he took of his phone.
Yeah.
Also, if he was drunk at that time, if we're going off the theory that he was drunk at the time, that's actually a pretty decent photo considering like he was like probably like shaken and like disoriented.
That might also explain like his monotone sort of speech patterns as well. If he was drunk,
it's like, going down the basement, I can beat this. Yeah, that's fair. That might. Yeah, although again, didn't need it. Didn't need that commentary to make it spookier.
Didn't care for it.
Yeah. But that's my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, D stands for evil. Your actual thoughts.
All right. Well, considering you're currently at the image in the video, I'm going to say that I liked the picture more than the video.
That's fair.
And even watching the video without sound, I still just like having that image as opposed to the video. If you're going to have one or the other, I'd prefer the image.
Yeah.
Why? Isn't a video more cement proof?
Well, unfortunately, the video just seems boring to me. Like, oh yeah, like even with the commentary that is just like, oh yeah, I'm going down the stairs and whatever. Like you can add your own commentary that is that while he's going through this video. Like, oh yeah, it's just some dude going down the stairs and pointing a camera at things. It's like there's nothing that happens.
Yeah.
Suggestion then. Would it be better if you said like this is where I was sitting watching cartoons, that's where my father was killed, that's where he got hit in the back of the head with a toaster, he died right there. Like stuff that we can't normally see just with our own eyes.
Yeah, that type of commentary would probably be better.
Yeah. Also, I was not expecting the staircase to be the way it was. I was expecting like a straight staircase down into a basement. I wasn't expecting there would be a platform
landing?
halfway down. Yeah, a landing halfway down.
Okay.
It was just like that's it. Like it was just kind of, when I was reading, when I was watching, it's like, huh, that was not what I visualized when I read the story about like him going down to the basement. But
Yeah.
all right, fair enough.
Mhm.
That's more just like a personal like perspective on it. But
Yeah, that's not exactly a fault on the story.
yeah,
Mhm.
and also like Mikey, like I don't disagree with you, like because yeah, like I think the image is fine for a story. Like the video, I like the video because I like Slender vlogs and that kind of I like those kind of weird videos on YouTube. Even but I will admit like sometimes they're slow and boring. If they but like I think it's mostly like a thing of perspective. Like I can understand why you don't like it because you don't like you like something to actually happen.
Hmm.
So
And then I like the handprint side of things,
Mhm.
just because it can be creepy.
Yeah.
I in fact put a couple sort of handprints on my wall.
Okay.
You can only see them at a certain angle,
Oh, because you
and
got the
so
oils on your hand. Yeah.
yeah. So I put them there, and then like I forgot about them for like months. And then when I saw them, I was like, "Ooh, that's creepy." I was like, "Oh yeah, I did that." Uh,
you jump scared yourself. Wow. So in horror, we get dog scares and cat scares, and Mikey has invented the new hand scare.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hmm. Okay. So on to my rest of my actual thoughts here.
Mhm.
So I have a quote which was quoted earlier, but I'll do it again anyway. I bent down to pick up my sock, and then as I reached for it, I watched a deformed gray hand quickly grasp onto the sock and drag it under the drawer.
Drawer.
Drawer. I don't like that word apparently.
There's too many. There's too many uh letters in it. Throw one away.
DRORE.
Yeah.
DROR.
I know. So at this point, um, I went, well, this seems very much like a dream.
Yeah.
Because, looking at my own drawer, to get a hand to show up under it, it's against a wall. So,
Ghost.
yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Uh,
see, I would find that creepy because it's like yeah. Also, I visualized like I'm guessing you visualized it as a normal like sized hand.
yep.
Yeah, I visualized it as again a tiny elf hand, like a weird like a tiny like probably like the whole arm was probably the size of my actual hand, kind of like grabbing the sock and pulling it under.
So you saw it like it's an underpants gnome just grabbing.
Yeah, exactly, like a gnome
Yeah.
or an elf kind of creature. Hence why I had
Mhm.
the house hippo, because the house hippos are only like about the size of like I think they can only get to about like half a foot to a foot size in size, like fully grown. If that, I think actually they're much smaller because they can get picked on by cats. um, but yeah, when you started like bringing this up, I was like, I bet they all think it's, I bet they all saw it as like a human hand, like a human sized hand. And then I started like thinking like,
Mm.
I would actually find that insanely creepy. Like, I think that's even worse.
Yeah. Because I feel like if it was
Yeah.
small, it would say it was small.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then my next quote here. I took the revolver out, loaded the bullets as quickly as possible into the chamber, cocked the gun, and walked back to my mother's room in the hallway. I shot the lock off the door that led to my mother's room, and then I watched as the lights turned on underneath the doorframe. And I'm now deaf.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just mop, mop, mop.
Because, yeah, discharging a firearm indoors with no ear protection, Yeah, that to me is just more confirmation that this is a dream. Because he didn't mention anything about it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't find dreams all that scary.
No. See, we're like, this is why I like having you on the show, because we are like very opposite in our opinion on that. Because like I find videos that we like the one we showed and like like the Slender vlogs and like found footage where like not much happens, but there's a lot of like buildup of like tension of like what could I get creeped out by the potential, whereas you like straightforward. I want something to fucking happen. And then like with dreams, I can easily get creeped out even if I know this like a creepypasta is like in a creepypasta that there is a dream thing. I can like suspend my sense of like, okay, it's a dream, nothing bad is gonna happen. I can still get creeped out by that, whereas you're just like fucking hate dreams in creepypastas. In creepypastas.
I just hate dreams. I don't know if I never have them.
Yeah.
It's always nightmare.
So, but like, yeah, it is interesting to have these like perspectives because like we are like this week. I feel like we are very like diametrically opposed compared to like when it comes to our like views on certain parts of this story. But yeah, sorry, dream. You don't find dreams scary. Boom. Sorry.
Yeah. So the only, I guess, good quality is that if this is a dream, then yes, it is all in my mind.
Credits.
Yeah.
Title drop. Yeah.
But that just doesn't give me any sort of creepy factor or anything, like, because I mean, even the title drop of "In My Mind" is like, okay, so it's all in his mind. There's
It's all in his head.
no creepy factor.
I mean,
It does lead with that, doesn't it?
it does lead with that. It also brings it up several times, like living in my mind and stuff like that. So, I mean, like at the
Yeah.
same time, one thing I would counter with this is like, so this could be considered more of like a psychological horror where like it's all in their head, and that's kind of that can be scary in of itself. Of like not knowing what you can trust about your
Yeah, I was
reality.
gonna say it's a scariness where you can't even like trust your own mind and your own memories.
Yeah. And as the story continues, like we get that. Like we kind of get that sense of, especially when he's like looking at that woman and then we hear a gunshot and you think he just shot himself. But then his friend who's now alive has the gun and has shot something, and he had a bottle of alcohol in his body. So he was drunk or drinking at the time. So like it's like what in reality in this story is true, like, and what like we're getting like an unbiased narrator, or we're getting a biased narrator.
I think you're talking about unreliable narrator.
Unreliable, that's yeah, we're getting an unreliable narrator, hardcore in this story.
Yeah.
But again, it's different strokes for different folks in terms of like what you find creepy and scary. So
Yeah. So that's the end of my extra thoughts.
okay. Then gamer.
Yeah. Let's see what I have left. So in regards to him like losing the sock, or the hand taking the sock, and then he like grabs a light and looks under the dresser and he doesn't find it. He doesn't find the hand, rather. He says, I have to be losing it. There's nothing under my drawer, and the wind just blew the sock. Yeah, that sounds like a plausible conclusion. Okay, that might be plausible if there was still a sock somewhere, but where is the sock? If the
Yeah,
wind
the sock
blew
is
it, it had to have blown it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't straight up say that the sock is gone or not, just that he can't find it. Whether or not it means the hand or the sock. I'm assuming it's hand, because he's like, what's that, a hand? I need to go find it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say
and and he's indoors. Why is there wind?
The window could be open.
Yeah, homes have windows.
But the window is open in another room that has a locked door.
The problem is it's not said that his window is open. He doesn't say like, oh, it could be the wind. My window is open. Like, we need to get that bit added to the story.
Yeah, if you like looked over, it's like, oh, the window's open. Yeah, probably just the wind blew it.
Yeah. Or like, maybe the wind, I had to have a
Okay.
fan on in the corner.
Now, unfortunately, it still doesn't work, because do you know how much wind is required to move a sock?
Yeah.
Okay. But like, denial isn't just a river in
Something.
Egypt.
Something for his mind to be like, okay, I'll just blame that instead of this.
Yeah, he's trying to rationalize the strangeness.
Mhm.
It's like, I didn't just see a weird gray deformed hand. That's crazy. Clearly it's the wind. Also, I was saying it was house elves earlier. I'm like thinking on it now. It's like, I have been watching Troll Hunters recently, and it's like, this actually could just be a troll. Like, even like a little baby troll.
Yeah.
Because they
Or
do
no.
eat socks in Troll Hunter.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Troll Hunter.
But sorry, continue.
Okay. And then in regards to him hearing his mother's voice, even though she's dead, he takes the revolver out, loaded the bullets quickly, blah blah blah, walks up to the mother's room, shoots the lock off, and then he sees like the lights turn on underneath the door frame before he gets in. So my question to that is, was it really necessary to shoot the lock off your door?
No.
Like, first off, why would the door even be locked? And even so, if it is locked, he has a key. It's locked from, because the lock would be, he'd be able to access it from the side he's on. Otherwise, how would he have locked it?
Yeah, I was just like, if the mom's, because you would assume that the reason why it's locked is because he doesn't want anybody going into that room. So then he would have locked it from the outside, i.e. But he's also not thinking in the right state of mind. So maybe he just like I don't know where the key is. Fuck it, I'll just blow the lock off.
Yeah, that's my next thing I was going to say. Is basically like, maybe he didn't want to waste time trying to find this apparent intruder, so he just shoots the lock off. But
yeah,
it's weird.
Or another thing I might suggest, he didn't shoot the lock. He actually used the key, but because of his current state of mind, to him it was like using the revolver.
He's fabricating a revolver.
Yeah, hence why his friend, who is alive and not dead, like we see later in the same scene, has a revolver. Is that he got the revolver, and Nair is just using a key.
Yeah, but he's going like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I locked it.
Yeah, and I get that the room is locked and stuff, because A, doesn't want people messing with anything in the room, and B, out of sight, out of mind kind of deal.
Yeah.
First with mother.
Exactly like how the story ends. out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote that down before even seeing that. And then in regards to the mother, she had killed him by accident. I watched as she started to scream and cry, and then I watched as she ran back up the stairs in panic. That's the whole premise to the night, that she was removed her life from my own. So basically, she accidentally killed the husband and then just immediately decided hanging herself was the best course of action.
That's what I got from that. Like, I was a little surprised that like, oh, it happened all on the same night 6 years prior to the present day.
Yeah.
Because like he was a little kid, like he was like a little kid in the memory. So like, but I guess like, yeah, he could be like his late teens, like going to work, like having to like live in this house and stuff like that. Or even like a young adult who can maybe the family, like maybe the parents willed him the house, or like maybe he got the house because of like from like the grievances and stuff like that. I don't know.
Either way,
he has a house. Yeah.
I'm not talking. That's not my point of this. My whole point of this is like, the mother attacked the father with the toaster to protect her son.
Yeah.
Accidentally killed the father, and then her next choice of action is to kill herself, scarring her son further and leaving the son alone in the world. She switched gears from I need to protect my son to I need to doom my son in an instance.
So I agree that you're it's odd, but it's also not uncommon, unfortunately, when it comes to when you do something
the trauma of all this happening. Yeah.
Exactly. She was being abused by her husband. The husband was going down to kill her child. She in an act of motherly protection, she went against the dad. But then the grief and guilt of accidentally murdering her husband, who yes had been abusive, but that's the whole thing about abusive relationships, is that you are stuck in that, and you are emotionally and mentally stuck in that state, because that's why, otherwise why wouldn't you leave? And then by killing him, she lost it, and in her grief found no other way of escaping this situation than ending her life. And even though
it's harmful to her son that she was trying to protect in the first place,
she very likely wasn't even thinking about that. It was just kind of in the moment thing.
Trauma.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I was able to turn. It is an odd turn, but it was kind of, I could explain it while I was reading it. It was it made sense.
Yeah.
It was I think this would technically be counted as a crime of passion, because it happened in the moment, the murder.
I guess, yeah. Fair enough.
It wasn't premeditated, is what I meant. Yeah.
I do wish there was some time frame in here, though. If it happened on the same day, okay, but it doesn't say if it does or does not.
Yeah, I mean, it could have happened maybe when what he meant by she removed her life from his, she stopped talking to him. She entered a deep depression, and then killed herself sometime later because she couldn't take the guilt and what she had done and what had happened and such.
Does it say specifically that the mother died?
Sorry,
does it say specifically that the mother hangs herself? Because for all we know,
I'm pretty sure it insinuates.
Let me continue.
Sorry, yeah.
Because for all we know, removing herself from his life could have been she went to a mental institution or something because she was going nuts, or she just moved to an old folks home to be taken care of, and
Gamer
if she died, maybe she just died of old age.
Gamer, early on in the story, my mother hung herself.
Okay, that's what I asked.
yeah. Sorry, hanged herself based on my grammar inquisition.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So it is specifically there. So yes, never mind.
Yeah, and it does say in that room, in the mom's room, there was a rope and a chair in the center of the room. That's usually a visual cue of a hanging.
Yes, but the first person in that noose was not her.
Technically, it was because it says right around in the story. It does say there's there's nothing there except for the rope and the chair in the center of the room, and then a moment later we get my who was pulling this prank on me? My mother hung herself or hanged herself, but not too many people knew this. And then he turns around, and in the noose instead of his mother is his friend Gerald. So yeah.
Either way, I'll move on.
Yeah. No, your view, your question here is valid, because it's I was even wondering, it was really she killed herself that same night, or was just that she was emotionally gone, departed from her son for until she offed herself later.
Yeah, but it's one of those situations where if it was later, it would say later somewhere.
Yeah,
because it doesn't, we have to assume it's in the same.
It was the same day. Yeah.
Anyways, I'll move on.
Yep.
I stared up at the clothes basket in the corner of the stairs and just walked past it. I remember putting my clothes in that basket for many, many years. As I walked down the stairs, the hairs on the back of my neck began to stand, and my head began to spin. All the way around, my neck was snapped, and I collapsed on the floor, dead. It's we read.
Yeah, but in this case, it's clearly a turn of phrase.
No, it's a turn of head.
Actually, I hate you so much.
Good.
Eternally, I hate you.
Eternally?
I'm done. Goodbye. Table flip?
Yeah.
Much like a head.
Yeah, no, not much like the head. It'd be more like him. His body would be flipping as he'd fall down the stairs.
God
Yeah.
damn
You were
you!
almost
You know what
there.
you are? You're fucking Drax. Metaphor goes right over your head, except metaphors would not go over your head. If it went over you, would catch it.
Yeah, of course I would. So good.
Finger to neck me death.
Anyways,
Oh god.
I'll move on. I photographed the handprint with my phone and then turned around and saw it. I saw myself. I waved back. I walked up to myself and hugged myself. It's not your fault. I watched as the other me nodded and stepped back into the darkness. That is not the reaction I would have assumed to have happened if you just see a clone of yourself.
Honestly, this was sort of like the tipping point. Is like, this has got to be a dream, or like he's in some weird state of mind, because like, yeah, that is not a logical reaction.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but that is the reaction you'd have in a dream sometimes. Like,
yes, 100%.
But yeah,
or in a drunken stupor, like what this is.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, it's not your fault. It's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah,
about
as
it.
the dude's hugging a mirror.
Yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. And then this next one is basically just hammering home on the same thing. My vision was blurry, and I saw Gerald lowering the revolver as he came to hug me and lift me. And in my hand was a bottle of alcohol. I watched as it fell from my hands, and he began to help me out of the basement. So again, this whole thing is just him being drunk, and the whole story is just his guilt-ridden mind playing tricks on him.
Yeah.
Like
but then 6 years go. Then 6 years go by.
Like based on him being depressed and needing to drink and all that, I'm assuming his father was actually abusive. His mom actually did accidentally kill him, and maybe she did actually hang herself too. But all the other potentially creepy stuff is just not.
Yeah, at least that's what it's trying to like kind of give us until like the ending, and then it kind of tries to throw in this. No, it actually there might be a supernatural thing, or it might be just she's crazy and like another. It unfortunately history repeated itself in that house for some reason.
I don't know.
I guess we'll have to find out when we read the Morsha. We'll have to read more when we read the Morsha.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see myself out. I'm sorry, guys.
Good.
I get angry at you for doing this. I get angry at you for doing puns and stuff like that. I'll just leave.
Yeah, you're accepting it and just becoming one of us.
No,
that's fine. This is the way.
This is the way.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, in regards to the ending, I like the way that the ending is, saying that he's gonna forget about all this bad shit and just start over, like removing the guilt's control over him. Like most protagonists don't do that. They just hang on to their guilt forever until they like get offed by the monster. This guy's like, no, I'm done. All this research that I've been doing, no, I'm out.
He was the smart Cthulhu investigator where he's just like, you know what? No, I'm out. Fuck you. I'm leaving.
Well, he eventually got smart after living out of Derpland for a long enough time. He's like, you know what? No.
You know what? I'm gonna go to another state.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move to another place, not in Derpland. Now that would be nice if there wasn't potentially a sequel story to this story that came out a day after this one got posted.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like this one came out I think on the 28th of March, and then the Morsha came out the 29th. So I've not read the Morsha. I've not even like gleaned at it yet, outside of like there's an image that like of a creepy woman on it. So I was like, okay, this might be an interesting one. And this story was connected to it. So like I didn't really get too far into it. So this narrator might be the same one that's going to be in that one, or it might be a completely different person.
Yep.
So
we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, in regards to the art, I like that the handprint evidence is there and the video and all that. It's a nice addition, but for me, unfortunately, it being at the end doesn't really do a lot for me, because by the time I got to the end, I already chalked this all up to just being all in his head, mainly because the title and him being drunk, and there being no actual supernatural stuff. So seeing a handprint is equivalent to seeing like a hole in the wall where I tripped over the coffee table and bashed my head into the wall. It's the same sort of thing. Like he could have just had chocolate on his hand, and that's where he touched.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could have been like a really like it honestly just could have been like a Rickard's Red. Like he got like his hands soaked in Rickard's Red from the bottle he was drinking, and just like put it on the like stained the wall.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, unfortunately, it didn't really have any impact.
That's interesting. Okay,
Because it doesn't. Does it say specifically what the handprint is supposed to be?
I think it's just supposed to be like it's a weird weird handprint that was like like he didn't know who or how it got there and like why it was there, kind of thing.
And the big thing is it's big, right? Like
Yeah, it was bigger than it should have been. Yeah, or bigger than like a person's hand.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, that's the end of minutes.
Okay. So we'll move on to final thoughts then. So like several other creepypastas we've discussed on the show over the years, this feels more like a first draft. Like all the main ideas for the story are there, like the bones are there, but there definitely needs to be some more meat on them. We need some more meat and potatoes, I think. Like a little bit more refinement, a few more additions to kind of like flush it out properly.
Flush it out.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said flush, like a toilet.
Okay, I meant flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to flesh it out properly. I will partially recommend on the lower end because I do like the core idea here, and I'm not sure how this and because I'm also not sure how this relates to the Morsha story, which comes after. But yeah, just because of the core ideas primarily, because I do like the idea of this like the unreliable narrator and like how kind of surreal it was, and then like what it did kind of get me thinking about like what the hell was going on in the story. It needs some work, and maybe the next story will change my tune on it one way or the other. Like maybe I'll find it like it actually does complement the next story, or maybe it's not needed compared to the other story. I suppose time will tell. But yeah, low end partial recommendation for me. Mikey, these stands for evil.
All right. So, as we've established, for me, there was no creep factor because, as the title states, it's in my mind.
Yeah.
So, and after that first scene of creepiness, I went, well, this is a dream. And there was no real creepiness to be had for me, which to me defeats the purpose of having a creepypasta, because if this is just somebody's dream they posted online, then that's neat and all, but it doesn't really do anything. So with that said, I did like the picture of the hand print.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not enough of a redeeming quality for this, so I'm still not going to recommend this.
All right. And gamer.
For me, it's a real life kind of horror. It's like mundane and depressing and all that. Those can be the most creepy things because they're real and everything. But in this case, it's akin to it all being a dream because unreliable narrator, he's clearly drunk. That's not to say that there isn't some creep in it, but like just the ability to not be able to trust your own memories and not know what you're doing, not have proper control of your body and all that, that's horrible in its own right. But as a story, I'm much in Mikey's wheelhouse where I wasn't really creeped out by it, especially because it seemed all mundane to me, but not in a truly horrifying kind of mundane way.
I mean, I was going to say there is a whole genre of psychological horrors that do the same thing.
Oh yeah, I know. And yet maybe this is going to be a situation with the second one that'll explain more about the Morse and all that. Maybe the reason that all this stuff is happening because it's like that kind of idiosyncratic magic stuff where you can't really tell that weird magic stuff's happening, but it is. It's just influencing them like over time to cause the effects that it's wanting to have happen.
Yeah, it's sort of Mikey and I watched a movie a couple probably last year called They, or it might have been a couple of years, not a year ago. We watched the movie They by Wes Craven, and for most of that movie, it's sort of up in the air. It's like, is this supernatural or is it all in their heads? And at the end, spoilers for a movie from the 90s, it's kind of revealed near the end that like all of the characters are patients or nurses or doctors at an asylum, and the main character is a patient at the asylum, and it's all in their head, and they just have this like fear of the dark and stuff. But then the lights go out in her room, and she gets pulled into the dark realm that she had been trying to escape throughout the movie, and it actually is revealed that there was something supernatural. So I was kind of reminded by this, because like we kind of had the same kind of like story beat of like, is this like the surreal, is it supernatural, is it mundane, like kind of thing throughout most of the story, and then it's kind of revealed at the end it might have all just been a drunken stupor. But then we get that part where like 6 years later we get the character like talking to somebody from an asylum about the Morsha, and like they know their guilt and mind stuff, and then like the character tries to leave. So it kind of, it's almost like it's setting up a supernatural bit that we might get revealed in the next one. But
I don't know.
Yeah,
like
I
that,
also
the whole twist at the end didn't really hit me. Like I appreciate that that Nair is just like, you know what, fuck this, I'm out. But I didn't see it as, oh, maybe there actually is a creepy thing happening here. It was just like he's just fed up with dealing with this. He doesn't want to, just wants to move on with his life.
Yeah.
And clearly, because there's another story, there is going to be more to this. It's not just going to be pure mundane, and there will be some spooky creature. But we'll find out next time. But for what it is, I'm sticking with a light recommendation until I can have more clarity and have things elaborated on more. Because as just a sad, depressing story and of suicide and accidental murder and stuff, it's not exactly creepy in the way that I would like. And if there is a supernatural aspect to it, it hides it so well that it doesn't even look like there is one. So that part, there's no supernatural scariness to it either.
All right, fair enough.
So maybe I'll update my recommendations after reading Morsha, but for now, low recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. I'm also now wondering, like, if Morsha is actually going to be from the point of view of the survivor from the previous, from the end of this story.
It would be her story of how she ended up in the insane asylum.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like maybe she has more. There's more of an inkling about the Morsha on her end from the maybe but we'll have to see, because again, like I purposely stopped myself from reading too deep into that one. I just found out that like this story was connected to that one. And then, like looking at the dates, this one came out before that one, so I would assume that this is the first story, and then Morsha was the second one. So it's I'm going to be really annoyed with myself if it turned out the Morsha actually you're supposed to read that one first, but that's not what I got when it was said that like this one is a connected piece to the In My Mind story. So all right, so. Looks like 2 light partial recommendations, like low-end partial recommendations, and 1 non-recommendation for this story so far. But maybe that will change, or maybe that won't, depending on when we read the Morsha. So that will do it, though, for this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below. This gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also send us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky stories. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And if you'd like to talk to us on Twitter, Mikey is at the Stands for Evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at The Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. If you would like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your stories that you wrote and posted online for people to read and talk about and potentially get scared by, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. We wouldn't be here if these stories didn't exist. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.